Hello, everybody. Welcome. How's it going today? Um, if you are here with me, let me know in the chat. Come say hello. Hey, Amber. So amazing to see you. Thanks for being here. And thanks for sharing my post about this today. Super helpful. And I appreciate you. Um, again, if you're just joining, come say hi in the chat. Tell me where you are or something about your day or something that's happening in your world. We've got LinkedIn user. How fun is this intro? Love it. LinkedIn user, if you haven't given permission to restream to use your name, and I'm not exactly sure how you do that, you come up as LinkedIn user. So tell me who you are. I am really excited to be here tonight because when you build a habit, the first couple of times it feels weird, right? And I go live all the time. I have speaking engagements all the time. Most of my career, there was like some form of speaking or training or leading meetings. But the first couple of times I do something in a new way, I get like a little bit nervous. And so the last 2 weeks, maybe it didn't show because I'm a professional, but I did feel a little bit nervous. And now I'm on week 3 and I feel like I'm getting a rhythm. I know how the screen share works. I know how the texting works and all of that. So super excited for that. And that means that in a couple of weeks, I'm going to start inviting the occasional guest on. And I will talk in another episode about who and how might come on to the show to chat with me. If you don't know me, if you're finding me for the first time, or if we've just recently gotten connected, I'm Lauren Lefkowitz. I'm an executive coach. And I believe that fine is a trap. And I work with executives, CEOs, VPs, emerging leaders, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs to escape this trap of being fine that we get into, this work, sleep cycle that we get into where we are not living our best lives and we're justifying that things that aren't really fine are fine. They're fine. It's fine. And Amber says you're getting ready for your third audio event now. Same on the nerves. Totally gets easier. And our LinkedIn user is Jackie. Welcome, Jackie, investigating the permissions. So the premise of this show, now that you're here, is mindset shifts and the what ifs is about the things that we tell ourselves are the truth. And some of those truths we tell ourselves are that things that are fine are not actually fine. And we create in our careers and in our lives, we create these ways of being that we've decided are true. And sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not. And sometimes they were, and we've changed. And sometimes they are, and we want to change. And so I am all about like digging into what are our truths. How do we think things just are? And what is in our power to choose and shift as we want to? So the way this works is that every week I spin a wheel created with my own topics. So I know I'm going to pick something I'm excited about and that I think is something that comes up a lot with clients, with my community, with people that I interact with. So let's spin the wheel and see what tonight's topic will be. Here we go. All right, here is the magical wheel. Amazing. And we'll give it a spin. See what comes up. Yay! Oh, well, it's hard to cheer for getting laid off. But boy, what a topic that is right now, right? So we're going to talk about getting laid off as an executive, as a leader, as a person who is surprised by the layoff, even if you knew the layoff was coming. So let's talk about that. So as we're starting this conversation, I'm going to share a phone number on the screen. This is a Google Voice number that you can text questions to during the conversation if you want to ask me something in particular and you don't want to ask it in the chat. Asking it in the chat is easiest for me. And also, I know that if you're worried that you're going to be laid off, if you have just been laid off and you haven't gone public about it, like it might be a little bit weird to post that publicly. So this gives you an opportunity to text me semi-anonymously. It will give me your phone number because it's a Google Voice number, so that I will get like a phone number that is texting me, but I don't go and research who it is. I don't add you to a spammy text list. I don't sell your number to realtors in your area who may want to buy your property. None of that. Not after your extended warranty. Hey, Lee, welcome. So glad you're here. Okay, so let's talk about layoffs and what layoffs do to us as humans, to us as professionals, to us as people who are trying to grow and thrive and be successful and enjoy our lives and our careers. And then we get sort of hit in the face with this layoff. And prior to my business as an executive coach, I did coaching on the side and worked with a lot of people who had been laid off. And I was in HR for a bunch of years. And so I was involved in the company side of layoffs. And at one point left a company before layoffs happened because I wasn't inside the conversation. So I knew I would be in the layoff. And what I see happen when somebody gets laid off is very often there is a, whether it's because of actual financial need, which a lot of us have, or whether it's because of the shot to our confidence, there is an almost immediate concession of some kind. I want another job now. I can't afford to not be employed. I'm willing to take a pay cut. I'm willing to take a level cut. I'm willing to start over in a new industry. I'm willing. And it's because our confidence has been knocked down. For whatever reason, the company decided not to keep us. And very often, it has absolutely nothing to do with the individual person. It has to do with cutting budgets and decision making. Sometimes they lump in somebody they don't want to have working there, but more often it's, we're cutting X dollars and this person fits into that dollar bracket, or we're cutting X number of positions. So, 3 people from your department have to go, ending up in, you saving this amount of money. Or a company is failing and they're cutting a whole product line. And so that the departments that support a product line are away, or they have too many people on their executive team for the amount of revenue. And so they have to cut some executives. It never feels good. And I'm not going to have you walking away from this conversation thinking, well, Lauren told me to feel really great about my layoff. But what I will tell you is this: you don't deserve to feel like you don't have value because you've been laid off. Your value doesn't go away. Your contribution, your capability, your talents, your skills, your team ability, your delegation ability, your leadership ability doesn't go away, and it doesn't diminish simply because you don't have a job any longer. And so one thing that I always recommend, no matter what level you're at, is have your stuff in order. Know what your skills are. Know what your talents are, right? And skills are the more like doer kinds of things that we can get by with. And I see, by the way, that my screen is like getting a little darker and a little lighter. We're at sunset here on the East Coast, and my camera is sort of freaking out, like it doesn't know how light it should be. But I'm here. I'm not fading away. So, have your stuff in order. Have your resume in order. I know that job seeking experts will tell you that you should be relooking at your resume every 3 months. I don't necessarily think every 3 months unless your industry is rapidly changing, but I do think every 6 months, because you're likely to forget what you've done. And when I say forget what you've done, I'm not talking about the daily tasks, the daily responsibilities, the job description. I'm talking about, raised X million dollars, or saved the company X $1,000, or hired this many people into the company, or increased retention by this much, or whatever the metrics are. whether you have hard metrics or whether you have qualitative metrics, right? Built trust by creating this program or creating that program. You don't have to necessarily be numbers based, but you want to feel fresh about knowing what you've accomplished and how you have served a company, and what changes you've made or implemented or supported that have helped this company be successful. Oh, I see. I lost the phone number here. Again, if you're just joining, you can text any questions to this number here. It's a Google Voice number that does not tell me who you are, and you can confidentially send me a text, and I can bring it into the conversation without naming names. So have your stuff in order. Have your baseline stuff in order, right? It's like having clean underwear. So if you're if you have had a mother at some point in your life, she probably told you to wear clean underwear in case you get into an accident. So I'm saying have a clean resume in case you get into a layoff. I love an analogy. So have your resume ready so that it's not the thing that's holding you back if you've been laid off. If you're in the midst of a layoff, understand your severance agreement, if there is one, before you sign it. There are all kinds of laws. All the laws are changing all the time. The NRLB, National Labor Relations Board, just implemented something that says that non-disparagement, I'm going to misquote it, so I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but it is basically says that if you get a severance agreement, it cannot prevent you from talking about the company or suing the company for wrongdoing, which has everybody up in arms, because there's one argument of like, that's so great. And there's another argument of what's the incentive to provide a severance agreement if it doesn't actually protect the company. So really understand your severance agreement. Understand what you're agreeing to. Understand a lot of non-competes have been outlawed. Not all of them, not yet. And so understand if your severance agreement says you can't work in your industry, which is like never enforceable basically, and not really allowed, even if a non-compete is allowed, because you're not allowed to be prevented from earning a living in your specialty area. But you want to make sure you understand what you're signing. And sometimes in the heat of a moment of being in a layoff, there's a desire to just like get the heck out of there and just like sign whatever they want you to sign and walk out. Read what you're signing before you sign it. And then take a breath. Take some time. Your mindset shifts into emergency mode because you've been let go and the regular paycheck you've been receiving is no longer going to be coming your way. Or it will be for a certain amount of time, depending on whether you have a severance, depending on whether it's paid in a lump sum or whether it's paid over a certain amount of pay periods. And if you've been with a company for a long time, the likelihood is that your severance package lasts longer than if you're newer to a company. If you're an executive, there's a likelihood that your severance package lasts longer than if you're entry or professional level or first line manager. So there are all kinds of considerations that come into play. But what I see so often, and the thing I really want to focus on for the next couple of minutes, is that we start giving away our personal assets. And I'm not talking about like our diamonds and our jewelry and our cars. And if you have diamonds and jewelry and cars that you want to give to me, let's have a conversation. But I'm not talking about those kinds of assets. I'm talking about our personal assets. So I am a really good negotiator. And if I had been laid off, I might discount that and not bring that into my resume and not talk about that in my interviews and not think about that as I'm applying to jobs. And then I'm discounting myself. I am handing over one of my really good assets, which is negotiating without anybody feeling bad about the negotiation. Because I don't think it's going to carry me forward the way that I want it to. Or maybe I don't want to talk about the degree that I have, or I don't want to talk about the number of years I've been managing because I don't think that I can get a vice president job again, or a senior vice president job, or a director job. So I'm already conceding. I'm already giving away my personal assets because feeling like I've been laid off makes me feel like I'm not good enough in some respect. So when you are part of a layoff and you are impacted, give yourself a little bit of grace. Give yourself a proverbial deep breath. And whether that deep breath is that you take a few days off, if that's allowed in your final time at the company, if they've given you like a month's notice or something like that, that you take a week or two, if you can, off in between the end of your work and your beginning of your job search. And again, a lot of this depends on circumstance, on timing, on your financial situation, right? So I'm not generalizing. This is how you do it. There are 100 right ways to do it and 100 wrong ways to do it. And there's no one way that's like the catch all for everyone. But if you're in this what if situation, if you're a person who has had, thank you, Lee. Preach it, Lauren. I love it. If you're a person who has been in this situation or is in this situation, or you see this situation coming, offer yourself some grace. Give yourself that deep breath. And that deep breath can be time off. It can be going to the movies every day for a week so that your brain is just somewhere else. It can be picking up a knitting project. It can be going on a vacation. It can be going to stay with a friend. It can be sitting on the dog with your couch. Sitting on the couch with your dog. Don't sit on your dog unless it's a Great Dane. And then like, maybe let's, see what the ratios are. Sitting on the couch with your dog and watching Netflix for a couple of days, right? Sometimes you need to engage with something that's going to help stimulate your brain and help you feel good. And sometimes you need to disengage and sort of numb for a couple of days. And I say both are okay. And anything in between is okay for a period of time. What's not okay with me is you deciding that you're no longer good enough because you've been laid off for a reason that is, has nothing to do with you probably. Once you've taken that breather, go and sit with someone and talk to them about what you do for a living. Before it leaves your brain, before you let all of the things that have just happened catch you inside of your head and inside of your heart, sit down with somebody and have them just ask you, what do you do for a living? Right? Now, this is like a little bit tricky because you're like, duh, I could ask myself that and I could say it out loud. There is something different about having a conversation with somebody else. When you have a conversation with somebody else, whether that is a constructive friend, and I've talked about before, and I will talk about for the rest of my life, the commiserating friend is not your ally. The commiserating friend wants to keep you in commiseration with them. The constructive friend, the positive friend, the friend who lifts you up and who you lift up, that's the friend that you can go to. They're not going to have expertise necessarily, but they will be positively supportive. They will hold space for you. I always say a coach is a great idea, an advisor, a mentor. Have another person in your corner. Sometimes when I work with clients, they've been laid off or they're in such a toxic environment that they simply cannot stay there and they leave their job. And I work with them initially when they don't have a job. Others of my clients want to get a job first and then start working with me. And others still are somewhere and they see an end in their future. And they want to get ahead of it. And so, everybody's in different circumstances all of the time. And in all of those circumstances, but especially when somebody's in a toxic environment or a layoff environment, there is this sense that they have to give something up in order to earn the next job. And then I see this happen in real time with clients who come to me months or years later who say, every time I've gotten laid off, I've taken a lower level position. Every time I've gotten laid off, I've taken a pay cut or a title cut or a people I manage cut or a size of the company cut or something. There's been like some punishment for having been laid off or let go. And I say that does not have to be the case. The benefit of telling someone else what you do for a living. And when you're with this person, ask them to ask you, what else? What else do you do? right? So if I'm talking to Lee and Lee says, Lauren, what do you do for a living? I will start telling him about my coaching practice. And how I coach executives and who I coach, what my niche is, the workaholic, the people pleaser, the boundaryless person. And then Lee will say to me, what else do you do? Oh, I have a podcast. And then Lee will say, what else? Oh, I'm a laughter yoga leader. So I have all of this stuff. I'm not necessarily going to think of it up front. But when somebody keeps asking me what else, my brain's going to keep ticking. I'm going to keep thinking. And record that, whether you do an audio recording or like Otter. If you don't know the Otter app, it's just a transcription app that listens to you as you talk. It's not always 100% accurate, but you can kind of figure out what you meant to say when it auto-corrected your words in a different way. Record that somewhere so that when you're ready to go do your resume, when you're ready to go look for jobs, you're not conceding. Yeah, Lee, the 5 whys and a how. There's a guy, if you know the guy, tell me who, but there is a person who wrote about the 5 whys and how, that you keep asking why. Is it Simon Sinek? You keep asking why until there's no more why to say. And then you ask how, right? So the how comes with the, like, what do you do? Why do you do it? Why do you do it that way? And why do you do it that way? What else do you do? Why do you do it that way? Right? Until you've dug all the way in. The 5 whys and a how, or the what else can really help you dig into what you do, so that when you're ready to write your resume, you are not starting from a place where you are reeling from the layoff. You know who you are. When you go to look for jobs, if you're already a vice president or a director or a CEO, you're not saying, I'm willing to take the step down. Well, I had the really good life there, but I can never get that again. That company hired you, promoted you, gave you raises, whatever it was not an accident. You didn't slip through the cracks up. You can slip through the cracks and get stuck somewhere, but nobody in your company is like accidentally saying like, oops, we promoted Lauren. How'd that happen? You got promoted. You got into the job. You stayed in the job for a reason. The layoff took you out. The layoff that probably didn't have anything to do with you took you out. Don't let it take you down. And that's the message for tonight. Thank you so much for being here with me. This has been awesome. Super excited to see what comes up next week. And if you've got topic ideas or something you'd like to hear about, let me know in the comments or shoot me a DM. And I will be back same time next week. And can't wait to see you. Have a great night.